Great. So welcome everyone to the Homegrown Minneapolis Community Projects Request for Proposals Pre-Application webinar. My name is Grace, and joining me are my colleagues Allison, Moses, and Chelsea from the Homegrown Minneapolis team. We have a presentation that will take about 25 minutes, and then we'll open it to questions. Please put your questions in the chat as they occur to you so you don't forget them, and my colleagues will do their best to reply as they come in. Moses will also add a link to the form where you can share your email if you would like reminders about this RFP, including when the full Q&A document is posted and when the recording of this meeting is posted. I want to start with a brief overview of what Homegrown Minneapolis is and does. Homegrown Minneapolis is a team within the City of Minneapolis Health Department working to create a more sustainable, equitable, local food system. With the help of the Food Council, we have created the Minneapolis Food Vision as a 10-year vision and the Minneapolis Food Action Plan as a way to guide the first phase of implementation. Both are available to read online. Projects funded through this RFP will assist in pursuing goals from the Food Vision and the Food Action Plan. The Minneapolis Food Vision is a companion document to the 2023 Climate Equity Plan, which contains policies and practices to achieve big climate and equity goals. To fund implementation of this plan, the city created the Climate Legacy Initiative. Through increasing franchise fees, this initiative will support the city's pursuit of climate goals over the next 10 years. The Climate Legacy Initiative is providing funding for this RFP to help us make progress on some of the Minneapolis Food Vision strategies in the Climate Equity Plan. So now let's dive into this request for proposals specifically. As I mentioned, the funding for the contracts resulting from this RFP comes from the city's Climate Legacy Initiative. Applicants can receive between $5,000 and $25,000 for new short-term projects or to support existing projects. There are 3 focus areas that projects can fall into: sustainable growing, season extension, and wasted food prevention. Here is a quick overview of important dates. All questions are due by January 31st. Responses to those questions will be posted to E-Supplier no later than February 7th. The due date for proposals is February 14th before 2 p.m. We estimate that we will announce recipients March 15th, which is with a start date of May 1st. Projects must conclude by December 31st of 2024. Organizations and other entities are eligible to apply. This includes both for-profit and nonprofit entities, as well as those using a fiscal sponsor. There are a few additional requirements. Projects must take place in Minneapolis and meet city contract and insurance requirements. So the first project focus area is sustainable growing. Projects in this focus area will support growing food using sustainable production methods within Minneapolis through things like educational programming and access to materials. Projects need to demonstrate use of sustainable production methods. This is not an exhaustive list, but includes some of the things that would be included: conserving water, composting on site, seed saving, attracting pollinators, or using no-till growing practices. The second area is related. These projects will focus on construction and use of energy-efficient season extension / controlled growing environment structures for fruit and vegetable production within the city. These might include cold frames, deep winter greenhouses, or high tunnels, which are also often known as hoop houses. All structures must follow applicable zoning requirements. If you have questions about zoning requirements, please email health@minneapolismn.gov, and we can help you there. The third focus area is about reducing wasted food in the city through prevention, food rescue, and composting. Examples of projects in this area might include food inventory software, food rescue, and donation of whole or prepared foods, food skills classes on topics such as food preservation, and on-site composting projects. So eligible expenses are the same across the focus areas. They include direct expenses, which might include things like salaries, printing, and supplies. And then administrative costs can be no more than 10% of the other expenses and might include things like space rental or utilities. I mentioned that supplies are an eligible expense. To give you some ideas of what supplies might be included in a proposal, here are some examples. You might include a high tunnel kit, materials to build a raised bed, seeds and plants, a compost bin, refrigerators, and canning supplies. This is not an exhaustive list, but hopefully gives you some ideas. There are a few ineligible expenses as well. The funding cannot be used for the following: purchase of land, purchase of electronic equipment like computers, monitors, telephones, or similar, lobbying of City of Minneapolis elected officials, activities that occur before or after the contract period, and activities that do not occur in Minneapolis and serve Minneapolis residents. In addition, funding will be via reimbursement, so please keep that in mind. Now that you hopefully have a better sense of what projects are eligible for this opportunity, I'll share about what you should submit for your proposal. On E-Supplier, as one PDF, you should submit the following: the cover sheet, the project narrative, which should be no more than 4 pages, the project budget, which can, but is not required to, follow the provided sample budget, and your applicant financial information, which can be either the most recent audit report, current 990, or board-approved financial statements. The cover sheet, narrative, and budget are available to download as separate attachments in E-Supplier to make them easier to fill out, as well as in the full PDF of the RFP. Please note, if your financial information makes your PDF too large to upload to E-Supplier, it is okay to attach that separately, but otherwise, please keep it as one single PDF. In the project narrative, which is the bulk of your proposal, there are 4 components: the summary, description, outcomes, and experience/capacity. On the slide are the questions you're asked to address for the summary and description. They include information such as who will do the project, how will it get done, the timeline, and alignment with the focus areas, as well as additional questions. Sections 3 and 4 of the project narrative include questions about project outcomes and impacts, and experience and capacity. On the slide are all of the questions your proposal should address, including how success will be evaluated, racial equity impacts, benefits to the environment, and applicable experience, among others. Again, those are all in the RFP document, that separate attachment. You are also asked to provide a project budget. We don't ask for a separate budget narrative, but please use your budget to fully describe your expenses. You don't have to use our template, but please make sure it is detailed and generally follows this format. For example, including the details about how the salaries of a staff person. So submitted proposals will be reviewed by an evaluation team made up of City of Minneapolis staff and external community reviewers. Their scoring will be guided using the evaluation rubric, which is found in attachment E of the RFP. This is an example of what the evaluation rubric looks like. You can find, again, the full rubric in the full PDF. In the left column, you see how many points are awarded to that criteria. Then you will see the specific criteria, which are related to the narrative questions. There are also descriptions of what constitutes a high, medium, and low score. So, for example, the first criteria on this page is worth 10 points, and it is how well does the proposal define who will implement the project and potential partners. A high score includes a proposal that clearly defines who will implement the project and names potential partners that will receive 10 points. A medium score of 5 points will be a proposal that somewhat defines who will implement the project and potential partners. And a proposal that does not define who will implement the project will be worth 0 points for a low score. The evaluation rubric will help our reviewers prioritize proposals. Funding decisions will be made with priority given to projects that promote racial equity and benefit our environment. We'll also be considering factors such as a variety of contract sizes, distribution across the 3 focus areas, representation across the city, and quality, thoroughness, and clarity of the proposal. When you are ready to submit your proposal, you will do so via the E-Supplier portal. If you are not already registered, you must register as a bidder. You can find more information about how to do so at the website on the slide. If you have any questions about E-Supplier, please email eProcurement or call them at the number and email on the screen. And please don't wait until the day it is due to apply. We recommend submitting at least the day before in case you run into any technical issues. We cannot accept late proposals. So thank you all. If you have any questions after this meeting, please email health@minneapolismn.gov no later than 4 p.m. on Wednesday, January 31st. We will post answers to questions that we receive by that deadline, including answers to questions asked during this meeting, as an attachment to the event in E-Supplier. We will also send this Q&A document directly to those who have completed the interest form that Moses put the link to in the chat. With that, I will open it for any questions. You can unmute yourself with the mic button at the top of your screen. You can also raise your hand using the hand icon. And you're also welcome, again, to put questions in the chat and we will answer them. But I will pause there and see if there are any questions. Thank you all.
This is Patty. There's a number of questions in the chat that you may want to respond to.
Yeah, let's see if there are any that haven't yet been answered in the chat. We'll start. Okay. All right, I will start with the one by Ray here because it looks like Allison is answering the other ones, but colleagues, feel free to let me know if I've missed one. So Ray has asked, our organization is in need of assistance with transportation for food rescue in order to grow our capacity to serve the Minneapolis community in which our food center resides. To that end, we are looking for funds toward transportation needs, toward the purchase of a refrigerated truck, gas/maintenance, and driver salary. Would any of these activities be eligible? I would say yes, as they're supporting food rescue. So those are all perfectly welcome expenses. Let's see. Allison and Moses, are there others that we haven't yet hit that are in the chat? It's very small on my screen, so it's hard to tell.
Yes, this is Allison. So we had a question from Lane about, I'll just read it. The RFP specifies a focus on projects that focus on racial equity. How does the city define and evaluate for this? So in the rubric, we define it as so a high scoring proposal demonstrates significant positive benefit for and involvement of BIPOC community members as the high score.
Thank you.
I'm going to start just reading some of the answers that we've put in here, and
sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, scrolling. Just give me a second.
And if folks have other questions as well, you're welcome to come off mute and ask those.
So one of the questions was also which projects will be prioritized. And I'm not exactly sure if you wanted to take yourself off of mute or raise your hand, we could clarify it further, but we do hope to fund projects in all 3 focus areas. And then, as mentioned in the information that Grace shared, we hope to prioritize projects, or we will prioritize projects that promote racial equity and benefit our environment and or climate, in alignment with the climate equity plan goals. I think there was another question about how many proposals or awards we anticipate giving, and it will really depend on the award amounts that are requested, but my best guess, please don't hold me to this, would be 6 to 10.
Thanks, Allison. Would you like to respond to Ocean's question, which is, we have a variety of projects that are relevant to the themes and goals of this grant. Do you prefer to fund multiple projects, or should we focus on just one? I would say we don't mind, but Allison, if you have a specific answer.
I don't want to waste your time. I think it's pretty unlikely that we would award more than one contract to the same organization. So I would encourage you to bring forward your best idea.
Yeah. But Allison, what if they were like multiple ideas in one proposal?
Oh,
I think that was the question.
So that is allowed.
Yes. Thank you. And it looks like Lisbeth has their hand up. You're welcome to take yourself off mute.
Thank you. And I apologize if the question is redundant. I tapped in a little late.
That's okay.
Are these opportunities open to food businesses or only nonprofit organizations?
They're open to both nonprofits and for-profit organizations.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Sorry.
Yep. No, that's okay. That was at the very beginning.
So. Yes, thank you. Thanks.
I just want to clarify, though, that if your private business is applying, you will need to demonstrate public benefit.
Yes, thank you.
And that's in the RFP. What we mean by public benefit is described in the RFP.
Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification, Allison. Lane asked, is there only one round of funding that Homegrown released this year? Yes. We have one batch of funding for 2024 at this point, and I hope to potentially offer this in the future, but no promises. So one round starting through hopefully in May through December of 2024. Ooh, what is our total amount of funding for this? Allison, you want to take that question?
So I would say, I don't mean to hedge, but we were awarded $200,000 under the Climate Legacy Initiative to support Minneapolis food vision strategies that align with the climate equity plan. So it certainly will not exceed that. We're still waiting to find out about funding for a project that we're doing. So we may reserve up to $50,000 of that funding to use for an aligned project that wouldn't be a community award. So it's very likely that we'll fund awards totaling something between $150,000 and $200,000.
Thanks, Allison. Are there any other questions, things that we missed? Otherwise, I'll make sure we say out loud any questions. I think we got all of them out loud. Will the awards be posted publicly? Yes, at the end, they all have to go through City Council and the mayor to award funding. So those contracts will be awarded, but that information will be available publicly at that time. And also, relatedly, the summary sentence on the narrative will be potentially like useful for that. So that might be kind of more of a public statement if you're thinking about when you're writing the summary.
So Lane asks, who chooses which proposals will be funded? And we will have a review panel that will be a combination of internal City of Minneapolis employees as well as external expert reviewers. And based on those recommendations, staff will ultimately make the final decision, probably in consultation with the health commissioner and other leaders in the health department.
And to be clear, all contracts also have to be approved by city council. So
correct.
Technically that's who decides, but there's multiple steps until then.
We do not publicize who is, okay, so let me read the question. Does the City of Minneapolis publicize who is on the review panels? We do not. Typically, we try to help those external people remain anonymous, just to protect their privacy. So I'm seeing some other questions coming in via chat. You're also welcome to raise your hand or take yourself off of mute and ask a question out loud. These are great questions so far.
Yes, thank you all. I'm also happy to go back to another slide if you'd like to see any information again. If we received a question, if approved, when does the money need to be used by? The money needs to be completely spent by December 31st of 2024. The funding source is based by the year, so all funds must be spent at that point.
And I'll just clarify, this is the Climate Legacy Initiative is new. And so we anticipate that Homegrown will have some ongoing funding from the Climate Legacy Initiative.
Allison?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was getting an echo from the person that just joined. I was waiting for them to mute themselves. It's totally fine. So we hope that for no promises, but it's our intention and we hope that for 2025, we'll be able to release the RFP earlier in the fall so that contracts could start in the first quarter of the year. So that there's not such a rush to get the spending and also to support projects that may want to do things like, start seedlings and buy supplies for the growing season before May 1st. So this is just because it's new funding. We had to wait for City Council to vote to approve the funding. So that was why the delay this time around.
Thanks for that clarification, Allison.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a comment in the chat saying that urban farmers began purchasing and planting seeds in February. And yes, we recognize that the timing on this is not great. But I mean, the alternative of waiting a year also didn't feel great. So we're really looking for projects that can be accomplished between May 1st and December 31st of 2024. So we're going to give a couple more minutes in case anybody that has joined has any additional questions. Otherwise, as Grace mentioned previously, we will be, if you would like to receive an email notification when the recording of the webinar is posted in E-Supplier, please use the form that was the link that was dropped in the chat by Moses. And we'll also be, once the Q&A deadline has happened, so that's I think it's 4 p.m. on Wednesday, the 31st of January.
Yes.
After that, we will be uploading the document to E-Supplier with all the questions and answers that we've received to date. and making that public. We'll also send an email out to anybody who uses that form to provide their email address to us. So you would get that directly in your inbox as well. So we're hearing a comment that the form only allows selection of one area of interest. That's fine. I would encourage you to just pick the one that feels most relevant.
Yeah, that information isn't like that doesn't mean you're locked into that area of interest.
Correct. And the Q&A will be for all of the areas of interest compiled into one document.
Are there any more questions? As Allison said, otherwise, please send them to the health@minneapolismn.gov email. We have to take all questions through that email address, but then we'll reply directly to you.
And again, all the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the answers will be made available to everyone through E-Supplier.
Thank you. And we'll stay on and see if folks have any more questions. We'll stay on for a few minutes. Thank you all for coming.
I will mention that we are still recruiting reviewers. So if you know someone who has expertise in one of these 3 areas who does not plan to apply and isn't affiliated with an organization that plans to submit a proposal, please feel free to email us. We've got a list of people that we've reached out to, but we're still looking for a few more.
Yeah. Sheldon asked a question about, is funding allowed to be used for canning?
Yes. I think you would need to make a case for how it's preventing wasted food. So if the food is rescued food and you're doing canning, I think that would fit the bill. If it's just, harvesting food from your garden, maybe not. It depends on how you frame it and kind of the case that you make.
Yes. And when
do we have a plan for, do we have a plan for when the recording will be sent? We just need to wait for it to be available for us, and then we have to get our communications team to post it to YouTube. So my best guess is that like by the end of the week, but if not, then early next week.
Yes.
Great. If there are any further questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or take yourself off mute and ask. We'll give it maybe just a couple more minutes.
Yeah, 2:35. How about that? A lot of information, I know. Yes, Sheldon.
So composting can be done in many different ways. Are you guys open to all those different ways of composting? It's just written how it's written in the document or the proposal, sorry.
Yes, I mean, just a little bit more, Sheldon.
Yeah, like what kind of...
So like I've seen different composting done on site by just putting it in the tub and rotating it until it gets down to a certain amount. Other times I've seen like in St. Paul where they just will separate things and then leave it on site and slowly let it decompose until it's that nice, good, healthy soil. Are you guys more open to all sorts of different types or?
Yeah, I would say it's important that it meet city code. But yes, I mean, there are lots of different ways to accomplish composting, and yeah. we're open to a variety of different methods.
Yeah, we love new ideas. And if you have questions about specific like zoning policies about composting, feel free to send us an email at health@minneapolismn.gov and we can reply with the specific information. I don't have it off at the top of my head and it's, a little technical, but if that's a concern, we're happy to work with folks on making sure it follows. It's not very restrictive, but.
Okay, thank you.
That would mostly, I was just going to say that would mostly apply to kind of larger scale composting.
Yes.
the typical composting that you see at a community garden or at a backyard compost pile. There are some guidelines, but it's not very restrictive, as Grace said.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think you're the last person. So if you have any more questions, let us know. Otherwise, I will.
All right. Thank you so much for hosting
All
today.
right.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.